After World War II, human beings commenced shifting into the region of Payette Lake, Idaho, the place nearby beavers had been squatting for centuries, barring a mini-mart in sight. After a while, the beavers began conflict again towards human agreement and inflicting actual injury to irrigation structures and orchards. It's no shock that the human beings weren't involved in transferring away. So they had to determine out a way to go the beavers away. The mountainous terrain of Idaho made relocation by way of horse and truck steeply priced and risky for the beavers. Who can't stand lengthy intervals of warmness outdoor of water? The answer got here in the shape of army planes and surplus parachutes. Through a sequence of trials, Flora and Fauna managers developed a container that was once sturdy adequate to preserve a beaver and gently opened when it touched the ground. The first assessments had been achieved on an ancient beaver named Geronimo, who was once dropped from an aircraft in a beaver container with a parachute over and over till the scientists had been sure it was once safe. Don't experience awful for ancient Geronimo, though. He obtained precedence registration on the first flight to the new territory, alongside with a harem of 3 women to preserve him company. 76 beavers incomplete have been safely transplanted into the Idaho wilderness, with solely 1 casualty whose field opened early and fell out. Cane toads are one of the most infamous invasive species in the world. Videos of motorists walking over the venomous amphibians have introduced interest to simply how despised this species is in Australia. One of the largest worries is their impact on animals like the quoll, a small marsupial that preys on the cane toad, however can be killed by means of the poison in its glands. Apparently cane toads are simply too tasty to skip up, so scientists have developed a way to put quolls off the style of toad meat. First, stay toads are frozen to death, skinned, and flour into sausage, a system that is notoriously stinky. Then, the sausage maker provides a chemical referred to as T-benzol that motives nausea in animals. Finally, the tainted toad sausages are dropped into quoll USA with the aid of helicopter, though preliminary consequences after the first drop in 2018 have been questionable. The sausage method does appear to be making quolls flip away from cane toads. Sirocco the kakapo is a hen from New Zealand who likes human beings a little too much. The flightless nocturnal parrot comes from a species that nearly went extinct, however is coming again due to breeding efforts. Unfortunately for Sirocco, he grew up around human beings and imprinted on his caretakers, inflicting him to have a very little hobby in mating with his very own kind. He has tried to mate with humans, though. Most fantastically, in a 2009 viral video, the place he mounts zoologist Mark Carwadine and valiantly tries to make infants with the scientist's skull. His affection for human heads brought about scientists to invent Sirocco an ejaculation helmet, a piece of rubber headwear blanketed in little dimples to gather semen. The hassle is that kakapo is long-winded lovers, frequently taking nearly an hour to finish. No one pretty had the stamina to let Sirocco spoon their skulls for that long. So the hen remained celibate. Despite the failure of the ejaculation helmet itself, the wacky story of Sirocco has introduced world interest to the plight of his species. So we're counting it as a conservation win anyway. The celeb chicken is now in his 20s and lives on my own on an island, every so often accepting visits from the heads of fans past. The helmet is on show at the Countrywide Museum in Wellington. Artificial insemination is frequent in agriculture and conservation. However, some species don't take too kindly to, let's say, guide harvesting. Horses and some friendlier bulls can be persuaded to supply up samples the old-school way in a pinch. However, what about when you want seed from something a little extra aggressive? Like a lion or a tiger? One of the options is electroejaculation, which is mostly used on cattle whose proprietors don't experience getting too upshut and personal. Methods vary, however. The fundamentals contain inserting a rectal probe that oscillates between 0 and most voltage, stimulating muscle contractions to set off ejaculation. Prototypes developed on home cats with plastic tubes and copper wires have been reformatted for greater animals like Amur leopards and Siberian tigers. A current success story from the Singapore Zoo produced a lion cub named Simba from electroejaculation of a geriatric lion whose title you must be in a position to guess. Simba used to be 20-year-old Mufasa's first cub, and unluckily additionally his last, as he did no longer live on the stunning procedure. Still a higher way to go than getting trampled by way of wildebeests. This one is a throwback from the early days of American flora and fauna conservation. Muskoxen had been popular in components of Alaska till the cease of the 19th century when an aggregate of overhunting and local weather stipulations wiped out the remaining Alaskan herds. Something about that didn't take a seat proper with America's legislators, due to the fact in the 30s the U.S. Congress allotted money for a reintroduction of muskoxen to Alaska. Thanks to this effort, nowadays the state's muskox populace is over 5,000. Here's how they pulled that off. First, a team of Norwegian sailors captured 34 muskoxen from Greenland and hauled them return to Norway, the place they boarded a steamship certain for New York City. There they spent a month in quarantine, protected however unable to revel in any of the glitz and glamour of the Big Apple. The herd then boarded an instruct shore for Seattle and every other steamship from there to Seward, Alaska. They took but some other instruct to Fairbanks, Alaska. The place they acquired a 5-year smash earlier than boarding every other steamship that took them to Nunivak Island in the Bering Sea, and nearly sank alongside the way. Remember that muskoxen are included in 2 layers of shaggy wool designed to stand up to Arctic winters. And now think about how uncomfortable that 8,000-mile trip needs to have been. Still, most of the unique herd survived and the populace on Nunivak is now around 600. It additionally seeded numerous different herds on mainland Alaska which are thriving to this day.